Heavy Hitters is finally spoiled, and with it, 6 heroes enter the deathmatch arena to battle for fortune and glory. Our hero that we're going to cover today is none other than the great warrior from Volcor, Kassai. Let's see how she plays out in Clash, and what cards you may be wanting to play in her deck, as well as some limited strategies that you may see during your pre-release of Heavy Hitters, as well as any future drafts. Kassai is back, and she is looking to raise an army. Her new ability allows her to gain a huge advantage whenever she draws a card during her turn. Whenever you draw a card, her swords cost 1 resource less to attack with. On top of that, you can banish 2 reds and 2 yellows from your graveyard to give your weapons an on-hit ability, which has you gain gold whenever a weapon hits this turn. This gold is a resource you are going to want a lot of, because not only will it be used for Kassai's new specialization, Raise an Army, but it will also give you the ability to pay 2 resources to draw a card. As you can see, drawing cards and attacking with weapons is going to be the way to build your attack strategy, but making sure to buff those weapons up is also very important to threaten those on-hits. Let's talk about our weapons and armor first, and then move on to the main deck. Kassai loves her Cintari Sabers, but I personally think she only needs to run 1 of them, because the second sword you should be running is none other than the new blade, Hot Streak. Warriors normally need to run a lot of actions that allow their weapons to get go again, and Hot Streak gives us an opportunity to get go again when it's blocked by an attack action. Another awesome addition that Heavy Hitters has brought us is cards that allow for us to make agility tokens. Agility tokens are destroyed at the start of your turn, and then your next attack gets go again. This is a great strategy when looking at your card pool to make your constructed deck to see how many agility tokens you're going to need to guarantee that first sword attack gets go again. Her suite of armor is also super great for her playstyle, while also being very defensive. For her default loadout, I chose Hood of Red Sand, Deep Blue, Gallantry Gold, and Refraction Bolters. Hood of Red Sand is a new Kassai specialization equipment that has Battle Worn, and as an attack reaction, you may pay 1 resource, then banish a red and a yellow from your graveyard. This will give target sword attack when this hits, draw a card. And as we know, drawing cards is what Kassai wants, and if we can assure that we can at least leak 1 damage through, the value will be totally worth it. Deep Blue is to turn a red card into a blue pitch in case you need those resources. Gallantry Gold is used to pump up your swords. And Refraction Bolters is to activate the go again when we hit with a sword in case we don't have an opportunity to give it go again. Outside of that, Arcane Barrier is probably the go ahead for other slots. You can't really disrespect arcane damage, no matter what format you're in. Moving into the main deck, there are a lot of cards to consider when looking at Kassai, especially from Heavy Hitters. In theory, you could make a super great Clash deck for Kassai with just the Heavy Hitters cards alone. If that's something you'd like to try, make sure to pick up a Kassai Blitz deck from your LGS and just add in cards from a box opening from there. Some actions to consider for the deck are cards like Draw Swords. Draw Swords allows you to pump up your next warrior attack by 3, 2, or 1 respectively. And yes, your weapon attacks do count as warrior attacks in Kassai. And then you get to draw a card. This means that you can then attack with your weapon for no resources at all, and keep your focus on making sure that your weapon gets go again. Another great addition and starter to your combat chain is Lead with Speed. Lead with Speed doesn't get you a card, but it does give you an agility token for you to set up for that next turn. Now, I know this may not be super popular in a warrior build, but I personally believe having some attack actions are very valuable, especially when you can play cards that allow her to wage gold with them. And remember that you want that gold to eventually raise an army. And I'm also now realizing that I never explained what raising an army even means for Kassai. Raise an Army, Kassai's new specialization, allows for her to destroy X gold and then make X Cintari Sellswords allies based on the amount of gold destroyed. Cintari Sellswords are the first time we are seeing allies in the warrior class, and Kassai wants a lot of them. They have 3 power and 2 health. They cost 1 resource to attack, and they get go again when they do, but you can only attack with them if you have attacked with a weapon, which is what you want to do anyway. Cards like Money Where Your Mouth Is are great buff cards for your weapons and attack actions if you have any in your deck, and they allow you to use the new mechanic Wager to get some gold tokens. Just make sure to keep those attack reactions available, so you can guarantee you have enough damage to leak through and get your gold tokens. On the topic of drawing cards, there are some awesome attack actions that you may want to keep in mind for Limited as well as Common or Clash, which is the Rising cards. For Warrior, Rising Speed and Rising Energy are the two available to you, and they both care about whether or not you drew a card. Rising Speed gets Go Again if you drew a card, and Rising Energy costs one less resource to cast if you drew a card. Even if you have to use one of those gold tokens, the draw effect will definitely get you a ton of value for your build. Wage Gold is another great card to add in there, although you're going to want to make sure to get those agility tokens ready, because this bad boy does not have Go Again, and you're going to want to spend a lot of resources to make this thing hit. As far as other cards to add into your deck that aren't in heavy hitters, there are tons of great staples to put into a warrior deck. Blade Runner will give your weapon attacks Go Again and then pump your next one. Hit and Run will also give your weapon Go Again, just not in the reaction step. Stroke of Foresight is a great attack reaction to buff your attacks, as well as getting you a draw trigger to reduce the cost of your next weapon attack. Slice and Dice is such an awesome card to give your swords a huge buff in damage. And the Piece de Resistance, which will bring even more value to your Clash deck and only available in Clash and Blitz formats, is none other than Minerva, our mentor. For those of you who don't know what a mentor is, you can put it into the arsenal, and then at the start of your next turn, you'll flip it up, and it will give you a static effect until you get enough lesson counters on them. Then, when they have the required amount of lesson counters, you get to search your deck for something, usually a specialization. For Minerva, she will buff your weapon attacks by +1, and every time you hit with a weapon, put a lesson counter on Minerva. When you have 3 lesson counters on Minerva, you then get to search for a specialization, I recommend Raise an Army obviously, and put it into your arsenal face up. You only need to run 1 copy of Minerva. It's pretty much there just strictly for a slight buff and also to tutor that Raise an Army out, but it is a great way to search for your specialization if you are sitting on a pile of gold, and you can't go wrong with a static buff to your weapon attacks. So that is the basic loadout of cards you should be looking at for your Clash deck for Kassai. There are other ways to build her, I would imagine, and I'd even like to toy with the idea of a fatigue gold generating build to really bring home the Raise the Army theme for her. But let me know in the comments how you plan to build Kassai for Clash, or whatever your favorite format is. And I also want to remind everybody that February 12th, 2024 is the start of our Clash League for Flesh and Blood. The Clash Discord, where we discuss all of our wonderful Clash goodness, as well as other formats, is located in the description below. Feel free to head over and get yourself a spot in the Clash Bash. I hope you all enjoyed today's breakdown of the new Kassai for Clash, and stay tuned as I cover every hero in the Deathmatch arena and see how we might build them in the Clash format. Take care, be well, and nerd out.